Everyone said she was just protective of her son. I should have trusted my gut. I want to start with the moment I should have known. Not the moment I found out what she did. Not the wedding. Not the planning. The very first moment, 8 months before any of that. When something in my chest tightened and I looked the other way. It was the night Nathan proposed. We were at dinner with his parents. A celebration, champagne, the whole thing. His mom, Diane, reached across the table and took my left hand to look at the ring. She held it for a long time. Turned it over. And then she looked up at Nathan and said, "I thought you were going to use your grandmother's ring." Not to me. To him. Like I wasn't sitting right there. Nathan said he'd wanted to choose something himself. Diane smiled and said, "Of course, how lovely," and the conversation moved on. I told myself it was nothing. First meeting nerves. A woman processing the fact that her son was getting married. Completely understandable. Was so eager to be reasonable that I reasoned myself out of my own instincts. Diane was a particular kind of difficult that takes a while to identify, because it comes wrapped in the language of love. She never said anything overtly cruel. She was always smiling. She always framed every act of interference as an act of devotion. She called Nathan every single day. Not a quick check-in calls that lasted 40 minutes, an hour, sometimes longer. If he didn't pick up, she'd call twice more and then text. When I mentioned gently to Nathan that this felt like a lot, he said she just liked to stay connected. That it was a cultural thing. That I'd understand once I got to know her. I got to know her. It was not the explanation he thought it was. She had opinions about everything and delivered them as facts. She thought we should buy a house in her neighborhood. She thought my career in graphic design was charming but not particularly stable. She mentioned twice a woman named Clara who Nathan had dated in college. Always in the context of a story that wasn't really about Clara, but somehow always ended with a detail about how much she had loved her. Nathan is a good man. I want to be clear about that because this story is not about him being a bad partner. He loved his mother and he had lived inside her dynamic for 31 years and genuinely could not always see what I was seeing because it was simply the water he had always swum in. I loved him. So I smiled and I stayed quiet and I told myself that once we were married and had our own home and our own life, things would naturally settle. I was wrong about that, but I didn't know it yet. Part 2 dropping tomorrow.